Hi, welcome back. Today I have another casserole dish for you all. The reason why I love casseroles is because you basically just put everything in a pan, bake it, and you have enough to feed your family, or if you're cooking for one or two, you have enough for leftovers, which is always really nice because that's one less meal that you have to think about and prepare. So today we are going to make enchilada casseroles. Before we get into ingredients, the first thing we're gonna wanna do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. The last thing I want for you is to prepare this whole dish and then have to wait an additional 10 minutes for our ovens to heat up. So let's get that going now, then we'll come back to review our ingredients. Now, while we wait for our oven to preheat, let's get together some of our ingredients. To start, you're going to need about 2 cans of enchilada sauce. Each can is about 10 ounces, so around 20 ounces of enchilada sauce should be fine. Then you're going to need some chicken. Today I'm going to use rotisserie chicken just to show you how I shred it. Then you're gonna want corn tortillas. I have 10 smaller size tortillas. You could also do 6 to 8 medium or large corn tortillas. We're going to be breaking them into pieces, so it doesn't matter exactly the size. You just wanna make sure that you have enough. Then you're gonna wanna get some shredded cheese. I got a finely shredded Mexican cheese blend. You're gonna want about 4 cups of cheese. So that typically ends up being about a pound of shredded cheese. Then we're gonna grab some sour cream. You will need at least a half a cup so you can kind of determine how much you want to buy. Next would be lime juice. Instead of juicing a bunch of limes, you could also save some time and effort and just buy juice. You don't have to worry about juicing limes. For this recipe, we're gonna need at least 1/4 cup. You're also going to need some oil spray. I use this for my baking pan just to help prevent any extra sticking. Lastly, to put on top, we are going to need an avocado. We're gonna walk through how I like to slice my avocados, but you're also welcome to use some store-bought guacamole, or maybe you have some homemade that you like to make. You can use that as well. Now for cooking equipment that we're going to need, you will want to get out a large mixing bowl. This is just where I'm going to put the chicken as I shred it. If you are going with pre-made chicken, or you've cooked your own chicken and you're gonna shred it or cut it up, you can also grab a bowl and put the pieces in the bowl as you go. You may also need a cutting board just for the shredding and the cutting, but for this recipe, I'm gonna be doing my rotisserie chicken. The second thing you're going to need is a casserole dish. So similar to all of my other casseroles, I use a 9x12. Before we start layering the casserole, let's get all of our layers ready to go. First things first, I am going to open my cans. You will actually want to run some water over the tops of these just to clear off any extra dust or dirt. Now to shred the chicken. What you're gonna wanna do is maybe get an additional plate. This way you have a little bit more room to work with shredding the chicken pieces. If you bought this straight from the store, make sure you give it some time to cool down, or maybe refrigerate it for a little while before you actually handling it with your hands. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the string that has it kind of all tied together just to loosen up some of the pieces. And then I like to start with the largest pieces of meat, so that way I can have an idea of how much I'm gonna have. So what I typically do is I just kind of come in here, take out all the sides, and then I start with the first large piece, just pop it out like that. Some of those pieces, see how the pieces are shredding pretty nicely. While you're going through the chicken, you want to be cautious of smaller bones. In this larger section, there are less bones, but the more you get into it, you might end up running into some. If I run into any, I will show you what I mean. Something like this, actually. See that? You want to just be careful not to get that in your mixture. But that's also why we are shredding it. So then we can kind of go through all of those pieces. You should be able to easily feel them as you're shredding. There are so many good uses for rotisserie chicken, especially if you're going to shred it like this. If you wanted to do something like making a chicken salad or putting it over a rice bowl, there are so many different things you could do with it. I've also mixed shredded chicken with barbecue sauce and made a barbecue chicken sandwich. You can add this chicken to a wrap or a sandwich. If you find that this is really tedious, then you could also just make your own chicken, buy pre-made chicken, and then chop it up or shred it yourself. Now for these smaller pieces, it can get a little more tricky. As I'm breaking them apart, you're going to want to look and see if there's any meat in these other sections. You can see I've got a lot of good meat down here. It's a little bit more of that dark meat, which is more flavorful and is going to have a little bit more of the iron in the chicken. And the good news is that if you're not a big fan of dark meat, because it's going to be mixed in with the white meat and put into the casserole, you probably won't be able to tell much of a difference. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog down there. If you've seen some of my other videos, he is frequently a part of this with me and is my sous chef, likely because he gets some of the droppings. You see why I needed a plate. It can make a little bit of a mess, and this just keeps the mess in one place. Again, just for ease of cleaning up. All about making it easier. Now for these smaller pieces, you can do the same and just take the meat from them, or you can heat them up and have them as a little snack while you wait. Once they're all taken apart, I will usually just kind of go through, break up any of those large pieces, and there you have it. Now let's rinse off our hands, and you can set your chicken aside for now. We are ready to layer our casserole. To start, you are going to take your oil spray and you're just going to generously spray the bottom of your pan just to prevent any sticking. Then what you're going to want to do is take a little bit of your enchilada sauce and just kind of pour along the bottom. Don't need too much. Just enough to lightly cover the bottom of the pan. And then you will take your tortillas. How I like to start is just by folding them in half and starting to layer the halves into a single layer. The next layer is going to be the chicken. So just take a little bit of the chicken. You'll probably be able to use about half at this step. So whatever chicken you were able to get out of the rotisserie or of what you made, put about half of it on this layer. Then we're going to top it off with another layer of the enchilada sauce. You can be a little bit more generous now that we are actually layering the enchiladas. Lastly, you'll want to add the cheese. So let's put a generous layer of cheese on top. You can really use any cheese of choice. I like the blend because I feel like it gives it a different flavor. You could also use cheddar, pepper jack. Now we're gonna do a second layer of the tortillas. Again, splitting the tortillas in half, like that. Enchilada sauce. We will add the chicken. You can use the rest of the chicken and some more cheese. Now with the rest of your tortillas, you're just gonna want to top off that last layer. Add the remainder of your enchilada sauce. It will all spread out while it's cooking. And then a nice layer of cheese at the top. which is going to bubble and brown so nicely in the oven. Now our casserole is ready to go in the oven. While we wait for our enchilada casserole to cool, let's get together some of our toppings. Like I said earlier, you want to have an avocado, some lime juice, and some sour cream. For the sour cream and lime juice, you can top this however you like. Something I like to do is actually mix in lime juice with my sour cream to make like a crema sauce to drizzle over top. And I'll actually keep my container, my sour cream container, to store the lime crema, serve it with each individual serving as we eat it. Now you can grab one more mixing bowl or just rinse out the one that you had used for the chicken. And then we can grab a spoon, pour our sour cream into the bowl. I have an 8-ounce container of sour cream, so that's what I am going off of for reference. So about a cup of sour cream. And then I'm gonna do a half a cup of lime juice. My half a cup is not clean, so I'm gonna start with a 1/4 a cup and just do that twice. See how easy that is? I would have had to juice like, I don't know how many limes, but a lot of limes to get that amount of juice. Okay, now mix it. So what the lime juice is gonna do is it's actually going to liquefy the sour cream, making it easier to drizzle over top. Now that you have your crema mixed in, it'll be a thicker, liquidy consistency. I'll just pour it back into the container. Be careful not to overflow. It will be a little bit more. We've got our little crema here. Save the spoon because we can use this to drizzle over top. Once you have let it cool a little bit, you can take your knife and kind of cut it into sections. This makes about 6 servings, so I will cut it into 6 slices just to have it done ahead of time. But similarly to all the other casseroles I have mentioned, you could make an additional serving if you need more. But at least this just kind of gets us started and makes serving a little easier. Now that we have cut that up into pieces, let's go ahead and serve it on our plate. Want to make sure you have a good sized plate because that's going to help get all the good stuff. You're going to want to take a wide spatula just to scoop it in there, or maybe a large serving spoon. Put that on your plate like this. And then I'm going to take some of my avocado. Before I put that crema on there, I am going to take my avocado, same knife that I used on the casserole, cut the avocado in half. You'll make it all the way to the pit and then just go around like this. So you should be able to do this. And then what I like to do, you can take a duller knife if you don't feel comfortable doing this in your hand, but what I like to do is just kind of slice the knife through just very gently a couple of times while it's in the skin. Like this. I don't know if you can see the little cut marks. And then grab your crema spoon. You might want to rinse it off. I like to use the same kind of equipment multiple times if I can, because it also reduces the amount of dishes you have to do after, which is a nice life hack. Okay, so you take your avocado, take your spoon, and you're just gonna scoop like this the inside of the avocado. scoop it out like that. And then you should have nice little slices that you can then spread over top. Like so. I am a big fan of putting a little bit of salt and pepper on my avocado. So I'm gonna top it off with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then for the crema, again, rinse off the same spoon, same one I used for the avocado. Take my crema, I'm just gonna get a little bit of my spoon, just drizzle it over top, like that. You can also adjust the amount of lime that you put in it depending on your taste preference. If you don't like a lot of lime or you want more lime, you can kind of play around with that a little bit. You could also just serve your piece with avocado on top and have a dollop of sour cream on there. But this is the final product. If you want a little bit more variety of texture in this dish, you could also serve it with a side of tortilla chips and maybe some salsa. Okay, now for the best part. Get a little bit of everything on there. Very good. Let me know if you try this or make any changes to it or have any questions. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, I will see you next time.